Alrighty, welcome back everyone, it is LaughNgamez here. Today we're back with another Starcraft 2 1 vs 1 replay cast. Today we have ourselves a Terran versus Terran, and I feel as if it's been a while since I cast one of these, so it should be good. So without further ado, spawning down in the bottom left hand side of the map, it is the red Terran. It is Pokebunny. Pokebunny is sort of a North American streamer from the States. I believe he's playing a fair bit recently from what I can see, so it should be a good game. And it's his opponent spawning up in the bottom right hand side of the map. It is Sottorks. That's how I'm going to pronounce it anyway. I believe he is a French-Canadian Grandmaster level Terran player, so as I said before, should be a good game between these two. But for now it is just the standard Terran versus Terran openings, which right now is just Reapers, basically. Reaper opening, gas first, maybe following it up with some Hellions. Sottork, wanting to make sure that he's not being proxied or anything, is actually moving out with an SCV Scout here. So players generally try to open up defensively in this matchup, as there is some very aggressive openings in Terran versus Terran, or the players themselves might go for an aggressive opening. We're just going to have to see how it plays out here. Pokebunny's even got that insane decal next to his base. Look at that. That's intimidating right there. Sottork's going to scout that and be very, very concerned. Anyway, so Pokebunny going for a CC, it looks like here. Well, he's banking up minerals, so it's quite likely going to be a CC. Maybe he'll go for a factory first with his extra gas. Might just be a Reaper into a CC followed up with a factory, and that's what it looks like it's going to be. Meanwhile, Sottorks seemingly going for a similar build here, getting that Reaper as well, rallying it to his base. So it looks like he wants to be safe. Pokebunny going to be rallying his nowhere yet. Look at this, SCVs are actually fighting. Will Sottorks be able to deny the base of Pokebunny? Something like this could actually be quite huge here. I know when Sottorks actually gets it, that's quite huge here. Pokebunny's command center is going to be delayed, and he chooses to throw up a factory instead before that. Sottorks is going to be lose his SCV. No, he actually denies it once again. Pokebunny going to be a bit upset with how delayed that CC was. If we look at the timings here, a decent amount of heads for Sottorks, just a little thing like that, getting him ahead. Once again, both players do have that Reaper. Sottorks got his positioned very nicely if Pokebunny chooses to go up there, but I think Pokebunny might take a path. Is he going to go right or left? He's making up his mind here, and yes, he is going to rally up. Is he going to react in time, though? Yes, he is. Sottorks' Reaper eats that grenade to the face. Sottorks made his Reaper. You see, he's a Reaper. When you usually think of Reaper, you think scouting. Nope. Terran players like to open up in this matchup with a safety Reaper here, as an enemy Reaper can always be a very big nuisance. And right now I actually see Pokebunny has followed up his Reaper with another Reaper. Maybe he decided, okay, yeah, you delayed my CC a bit. I'll try to put on a bit of pressure here. And now we have the one Reaper for Sottorks is going to be jumped here by these two. These two actually might just make it to the main, but if Sottorks loses this Reaper, it will be a huge loss. And yes, he is. The Reapers of Pokebunny just get right on top of it. Now he's going to pull out and heal those up. Sottork, fortunately for himself, does have a Hellion on the way out, so that will be invaluable in this defense versus the Reapers, as Hellions can micro against them. His CC fortunately finished up for him, so he will be safe in that regard. And Pokebunny's actually running up the ramp with his Reapers, throws down grenades, gets some down, but he does end up losing one of the Reapers for it. So one Reaper for weakening two of the Marines, and these two Marines for Sottork need to be very careful. The Reaper for Sottork managing to tank very well, and it might actually be able to pick off one of those weak Reapers, but I think Sottork does need to repair his Hellion right away, and he's actually following it up with a Cyclone right now. Cyclone's very useful in this matchup if you want to be safe from things like Banshees, but it seems that Sottork might actually just take massive damage here. He's forced to evacuate SCVs as Pokebunny simply overpowers him, and this is what I was talking about TvT. Aggressive openings like this can snowball. Sottork lost his first Reaper, and now he's going to pay the price here. Pokebunny putting on the pressure. The one Cyclone will be very helpful. The Viking actually can land, as the Vikings and Cyclones are very tanky, so the Reapers aren't too effective versus them, and one of the Hellions is weak, so that could be picked off here. So Sottork re-securing his natural here, but Pokebunny sort of had that delayed CC, but he's gotten himself back into this game. So very well played by Pokebunny there, but now this one Cyclone is going to start to being able to put on the pressure on these units. Deny Banshees if there was any, but Pokebunny is not going for a Banshee. In fact, he's going for a very quick third CC. And Sottorks here is just going for the barracks right now, so wanting to maybe put on potential pressure, or maybe he'll get a later CC, but for now, Sottorks having that mining delayed on his main base by Pokebunny, a very effective Liberator coming to the back here. The Cyclone can't make up its mind where it wants to go, and Pokebunny actually did lose Well, all of his Hellions except for one, all of his Hellions and Reapers except for one. But the Liberator got massive harassment done. And I think this is going to put Pokemon in quite a good situation here. The income was so much lower for Sottork for a bit. They're equal on workers right now, but Pokemon is going to have a significant economic advantage. He's getting up his third CC way quicker, and he's got a good amount of production to sort of sit behind with this. So Sottork is going to need to do something to get himself back into this game, as he is going to be massively behind with this extra CC for Pokemon, assuming Pokemon holds on. Stim is quicker so for Sottork, so he will have a window there, but Pokemon is massing these Vikings here. Well, no, he is getting his own Vikings, so it is going to be an equal Viking count, so it will be hard to find an advantage there. Siege tank counts are also very important in TvT, and Pokebunny's actually got the lead in that right now, so it is a very good position for Pokebunny right now. Sottork just playing it sort of defensive right now. He doesn't know that there's a third base on the way for Pokebunny. He hasn't scanned or anything like that. In fact, I believe he's pretty much blind. Except for that one scouting SCV or Reaper, not much has gotten out for Sottorks as far as vision in this game goes. Yeah, not aware of much at all right now. And there's actually a Liberator move. Actually, it's the same Liberator as before, I believe, that was fully repaired and is now moving out. Pokemon now scanning. He sees the production, but he doesn't know if there's a third CC on the way, and he doesn't actually see that much of an army for Pokebunny. He sees a siege tank, so he's probably aware that there's not going to be a move out right now. The Liberator for Pokebunny is just hanging out right there. And Pokebunny is playing this game so greedy in a way, going for that third CC. Now going to be getting double upgrades with these two engineering bases. Sottork does have a slightly faster +1 attack, so he may be able to find a window there, but his third CC is just finishing up, whereas Pokebunny has had the mules all along, and now we see Pokebunny supply advantage here. He's got a slight SCV advantage, and he's in quite a good situation with these upgrades. Both players are getting upgrades at the same time, so Sottork has sort of just managed to even out this game here, as Pokebunny didn't exactly land his third CC very quickly, so the economic position is not too bad for him, assuming that he just keeps up good macro, but these two Medivacs are going to be going for a drop here. I believe that is about 13 Marines in there, but these Vikings for Pokebunny, they're like sharks going back and forth, going to be able to pick this off. If these Medivacs fly into these Vikings, it is going to be a world of hurt for Pokebunny, for Sottork here, and a very happy day for Pokebunny. And now Sottork just getting up more production now. I believe Pokebunny is ahead in that department. No, they're actually quite even right now, so Sottork will have a slight production advantage, but Pokebunny is just a bit ahead here with that overall supply. And if these Medivacs go down, yes they did, the Marines are going to stim in for Sottork. They're going to kill a few workers, kill off a few Vikings, so that may be useful later on in the game, but that did not accomplish what he wanted to accomplish. Now massively down in army supply 20, whereas before the drop like that failed, his situation wasn't too dire. But a defender's advantage for either of these players should be enough to prevent an attack from going out right now. Pokebunny down on the Viking count now, I believe, so actually no, even on the Viking count, so it's going to be really hard for either player to attack right now. This is quite a defensive map here, but it seems that Sottork may be trying to go for it. He's got these Medivacs with his siege tanks, and really TvT right now is all about positioning. Pokebunny does have way more siege tanks, though I believe he's up by 2 siege tanks, which is very significant, particularly if he catches his army off guard. Right now, Pokebunny scanning, seeing exactly what he wants to see, and is landing siege tanks, which are going to shred some of these Marines right now and force Sottork to siege up. Pokebunny getting a better trade on the Vikings, actually, and is now ahead in that regard, so very well played by Pokebunny, taking this position. Sottork throws up a sensor tower. I'm not sure if it caught that Liberator right there, but it is gonna... That Liberator coming back wants to finally get some kills here. Is Sottork gonna react in time? He reacted very well last time, but no, he's gonna start losing SCVs here. He's focused on a drop at the third base right now, but the Marines are gonna go down there. Sottork does manage to save them. Very well done in that regard here. But Pokebunny is just holding this position very well. Pokebunny 2-2 on the way. This game is just going much, much better for Pokebunny. Both players floating a lot of resources right now, just trying... I guess they're not focused on macro, because in TvT, you can always just straight up die to a strong attack, to a well-positioned attack. For example, Sottork right now just trying to clear up this this Liberator, but he can't. These Marines are going in, but this one Liberator is now up to 12 kills. down on health a bit, but oh no, Sottorks is just running 2 Marines in at a time. That is not how you're supposed to do it. These next 2 might get it done. Okay, these next 3 probably will, but this is a tough situation for Sottorks. Trying to get some damage done, but leading off siege tanks here. Pokebunny, very good drop here. But as I said before, one good fight can always change the course in a Terran versus Terran right now. A good siege tank land before your opponent. Viking control, picking off Medivacs, anything like that can always happen. So Sottorks is definitely not out of this game. For example, trying to get any edge he can right now, forcing Pokebunny to land his siege tanks for fear of losing them. We now see a third base starting to mine out for both players, really. While Pokebunny, I believe he had his quicker, and he muled it quite heavily, so these bases don't have a lot left in them, and players are going to need to look to start taking fourths eventually. Sottorks has been putting on pressure right now, and he is taking a decent fight, it seems, picking off a siege tank or 2, but he needs to pull back to his siege tank line. A very low Marine count compared to Pokebunny, but he does have an impressive siege tank line to hold this position. Supplies are evening up as well. Sottorks actually slightly ahead in SCVs, not very relevant right now, though. Scans for both players going down. We see both players wanting as much information. Sottorks trying to pick off a tank evac right there, but does just lose a Viking as a result. Siege tanks trying to just pick off as many units, and I think the siege tank count is actually decently ahead for Sottorks right now. No, it's even. I believe Pokemon might have a few more back at home, though. Yes, he does. He does just have 1 or 2 rolling off the production line. Once his army is rallied up, he does have that supply lead, so he should be in a good position right now. Sottorks trying to get any advantage he can, just dropping on top of these tanks and actually lifting off. He doesn't want to. If you can take an efficient trade, like picking off a few Marines here and there, it can be worth it, but it's very risky here. Those siege tanks almost managing to pick off a large amount of those Marines, but Sottorks, considering his sort of poor opening in this game, is doing decent for himself, except for the upgrades. He needs to rely very heavily on his siege tanks right now. If we look at this, as Pokebunny has 2-2, whereas Sottorks only has 1-1. Siege tanks, though, can make up this difference, but if it does just come down to a Marine versus Marine fight, it's going to be very tough for Sottorks to take it. Sottorks' tanks were in a very nice position on the low ground, but he is starting to bleed off units here. Pokebunny stimming in. Sottorks is saving, pulling back these siege tanks right now, but needs to land them or start picking off these Marines. The Marines for Pokebunny are on the hunt. Sottorks' Medivacs need to get out of there. These are so crucial. If he loses these, the game is almost certainly over. Dropping 1 Marine, so cute, taking the watchtower. Just for a second, Sottorks' tanks are way out in the middle of nowhere trying to hang on here. And he needs to pick up these siege tanks and recollect them with the rest of his army. These tanks are very efficient, but they need a buffer here. Sottorks, good mineral count right now, so if he spends this, he will be able to build up a good army count, but once again, we saw that fight go so poorly for him because of this upgrade advantage. There will be a time in which he's even 2-2, might be a good time for him to take a fight, but for now, he needs to be defensive, landing these siege tanks here, trying to take a good position, but he's sieging these tanks up, whereas Pokebunny can drop his, and he's going to get the first shots off right now. Pokebunny, though, getting a bit over eager, not realizing how many siege tanks were down there, bleeds off a massive amount of his Marines. But for now, it's more or less just siege tanks versus siege tanks, but Pokebunny sort of has a better production line going on right now, more units on the way, more production, but Sottorks making 3 siege tanks right now, relying on this so heavily, and he's pursuing Pokebunny with these tank evacs right now, just dropping the tanks. I think there's almost more tanks on the battlefield right now for Sottorks than there is Marines. Yeah, 10 tanks, 13 Marines. This is very interesting. The players just using as much of their micro ability as they can, just take good trades in this game. As yes, macro is not as important in TvT. If you have siege tanks, if you take a good fight, even if you're behind, you can come back into a game like this. And Sottorks is showing us how you can stay alive. Siege tanks trading blows here. Pokebunny managing to save one of his weak ones. Every tank matters, and Sottorks actually evened up supply right now. He's down in army supply, but he's ahead on workers slightly. He's secured a 4th base, but Pokebunny is going for a 4th and a 5th. Sottorks scanning the 4th base, but actually going to land siege tanks and shut this down hard. Pokebunny dropping his tanks right into the siege tanks of Sottorks, and he's taking a very poor fight right now. But Sottorks does not have that much of a buffer for his tank, so he is going to take a poor trade towards the end. Good trade at the start, but no, he loses all of his siege tanks, and now his siege tank count is going to be very low. He did have a high tank production, though, so he will be able to, he will have a decent enough siege tanks to hold on here, but Pokebunny finally going for a drop right now to come back into this game. Sottorks actually has 2 siege tanks sitting there doing absolutely nothing. Now pulling them over, they're going to be in charge of dealing with these Marines. A massive production cycle comes out to clear up this drop right now. for Pokebunny, but now Pokebunny is going to be able to come in here and deal massive damage if he gets a good position right now, but he is charging Marines into Siege Tanks once again. Sottork, good micro, pulling back 2 of the Siege Tanks, only losing 1 there, but in TvT, we've seen this time and time again. If a player gets on top of a Planetary Fortress and starts sieging it, this can sort of be the death choke that kills a Terran player. Sottork's force base, the most important base he has right now, is under siege. The Siege Tanks are dropping everywhere, shutting down this ramp for Pokebunny, and he's now just in such a good position right now. Charging in once again, might be getting a bit overeager, running into the Siege Tank line, but he has so many more Marines. He has a Marine upgrade advantage. He has a tank upgrade advantage, and this game is all but Pokebunny's right now. Sottork is going to need a miracle to hold right now. Good Siege Tank drops could possibly get him back into this, but he's in such a tough position. Dropping tanks into tanks is not efficient right now. He is going to manage to pick up 1 tank with 2. The tanks for Pokebunny were focused on the Planetary Fortress, and that is efficient. That is good for good for Sottork, as the Planetary Fortress can always draw shots. It's very tanky, so it can allow Sottork to take a good fight, but right now he's down on army supply by such a large amount. Pokebunny doubling the army supply of Sottork. He's going to stim in. He's going to break the back of Sottork. It looks like he's going to pick off these Siege Tanks. No, Sottork micros them back once again, staying alive in this game, but just barely. The SCVs are repairing this Planetary as much as they can, but more and more Siege Tanks are directing their fire towards it. Sottork, massive production wave of Marines, but breaking this position is going to be such a challenge. He's going to need to go in with his Marines, possibly his SCVs, really everything. Get a good fight, but Pokebunny has so much right now, and he's just putting pressure onto the production line of Sottork. Sottork's Planetary goes down, and he is in such a tough situation now. Siege Tanks sieging up, but Pokebunny getting on top of them with his large bio count, with his better upgrades, and he's just going to kill Sottork straight up. And that is one way to end the game, as a GG, as Pokebunny manages to take the game. Alright, so TvT, clearly a very hectic matchup there, as Sottork almost came back. He was sort of behind from the start, but he managed to almost pull it back, but not quite. Pokebunny doing a good job sort of sticking to his advantage, but you can see in TvT how even if a match is close, it's always a very dicey situation for both players with the current meta of tank evac bio. Anyway, if you guys have enjoyed the cast, feel free to let me know. If you enjoy this type of content, feel free to subscribe, as I'm always trying to put out more and more SC2 casts. Otherwise, I shall see you guys next time.